Hey guys, if you follow any of my social media accounts, you'll notice that I don't have too many videos. I don't have too much artwork or posted content. And I used to do it a while ago. I actually used to live stream artwork as I was drawing and, talk to my friends and just kind of involve people in the process. And that hasn't happened for about 2, maybe 3 years. And, people encourage me and they tell me that I should get back into it, and kind of don't have time to set like a set schedule. I'm doing this thing where I'm working and squeezing like the absolute most out of my non-working hours in order to progress artistically and to get more content together, in order to independently publish through Kickstarter or crowdsourcing, because I just see a trend that I'm not really fond of, and I feel like the best fit for me is to go with independent publishing, and by independent I mean me and people I trust. So, well, that opens up a can of worms, doesn't it? If you've noticed on my YouTube channel, you'll see a couple of videos. They're tutorials. I have a son who's recently asked me if I could give him tips on different things, different techniques, and different situations as an artist, because he's gotten into drawing and he loves to animate and he loves to draw, and he just asks me questions from time to time. And I don't know if you gather from this video, but Dad likes to talk. And sometimes when I talk, I give him too much information. And it's hard for a little guy to process a lot of information all at once and have questions and get the questions answered. And sure, I've got tips for him that are all based on my personal experience and things other people have shown me that help me produce in the most effective and interesting fashion. We can leave it at that. So I created those videos in order to let him watch them whenever he'd like. And what I did was I used an example of a print that I created for the upcoming Granite Con, which is next weekend, September 15th through the 17th in Manchester, New Hampshire. What I did was I had him give me 2 characters. We put those 2 characters in a situation, and then I explained to him along the way through a series of videos my philosophy behind how I do things, why I do things, and what the best possible methods could be. And I always leave that open-ended when people ask me questions, because what works for me might not work for you. So I tell people how I do things and why I do things. I tell them how because that was the question. I tell them why because I feel as though if you let people know the motivations behind your actions, then they understand the thought process, and it might allow them to come up with their own methods that are way better than mine. At least that's what I like to believe. So in that spirit of those videos, I decided I would make one video and show you guys that I'm really not all that much talk. You follow me on social media, you see me telling you, hey guys, I'm working on big things, I got new things coming, and I just don't show you guys because some of them the writers have asked me, please don't show anything. And then others, the writer has been like, hey, show this stuff. But I'm so busy working on like a million different things all at once that I just don't have time to set these up and properly put them on social media the way I'd like to. I figured if I did this video, you guys could see where I came from, what I'm doing currently, and what I'll be doing in the future. Okay? So without further ado, let me start with one of the first pages I called up from examples. If you take a look here, this is Jimmy from the Supertopian Ashcan issue. Can't recall which page it is because I wrote over the page file or the file name, and it's beautiful, but it's kind of a mess. You can see that I did have, I'm sure it's, anyway, I had a pension, I don't know. I had a good skill, yeah. I had a good skill of extrapolating comics, cartoon poses, and using them in graphic storytelling. Now, I really didn't understand a lot of the way that storytelling works, so I'd like to say that around this time, I was getting really lucky. I was doing things and more or less copying what I saw and not understanding why it was done. So when there are minor flaws, things that do upset the flow of the storytelling, I just didn't catch them. Now if I were to redo a page like this, I'd understand it a lot better, and I'd be able to lay the page out and let it flow and fluidly tell the story visually, like a lot better. So, case in point, you might not see it, but if you look at that top panel, there's a tangent that almost gets created in that top corner where you're looking at all the videos that Jimmy is surrounded by, and he pauses the VCR or DVD player. Yeah, he pauses the DVD player. Now, what I meant to do was show that he was in a room and you could see the ceiling and the wall. But what I didn't do was draw the line of the wall across the top of the panel, go through that almost corner, and then meet the edge. So it visually kind of breaks, and it just does some weird stuff. I could have done it a little bit better. And then when you go to the third panel where Jimmy's looking in the refrigerator, his face is weird. I could have done that a lot better. I could have formed it and sculpted it a lot better. And also, the inset panel where you see that there's butter in the fridge, I could have done that a lot better. I could have used Jimmy's shoulder to show that there's butter in the fridge and shifted the whole graphic over so that the handle for the fridge was all to the right, and then you had all that space behind Jimmy to show that there's butter in the fridge, and that's what he's looking at. And then you just take the arrow and put it inside the fridge. Now there are other things like the perspective lines on the data plaques in the microwave. I show that it's dirty, and I could do that better now. And then the size of the microwave doesn't work from panel 4 to panel 5. It gets smaller as he closes the door and pushes the button. When in actuality, I could have scaled that microwave up, covered more of the door, and used it as a panel border. And then you've got the reaction panel when the ding goes off. Those are sloppy reaction lines coming out from behind the microwave. And Jimmy's reaction just isn't strong enough and energetic enough. So that's that first page, and I've done that years ago. So let's move on to the next page. No, I do not want to save it. Now the second page is actually deeper into the book. And you can tell here that I have a lot of energy when it comes to telling these stories. Like, you can see there's emotion, and there's motion itself, kinetic energy. I just haven't hit a stride. Like, it's in here, it's just not in here. I can feel it, I just don't know how to apply it. So we've got that long corridor shot, which I could have turned it a little more and made it seem a little more eerie, and there definitely could have been more darkness because they're in a tunnel inside of like a big pyramid. I could have played with shadows more in order to make it a lot more good versus bad, and for people to just kind of be more scared for the Supertopian that's been tied up by these spider soldier guys. And then this, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth panel, I didn't really tell the story well enough. Like, there wasn't enough intrigue. I feel as though I could have set that panel a lot better to make things more dramatic. And so for people to be like, who is that person in the shadows? 5 and 6 are just, they're closing out the page, but I still feel as though I could have done it a lot better. I could have drawn the Supertopian throne on the ground and just really more impact. Like, it could have been a little more violent, a little more like, ouch, that hurt. And then his reaction in the last panel could have been a lot stronger and a little bit more. I could have pulled back and had more like action, like the little sweat bubbles coming off of him. Oh, now what are you doing? Okay, so that's that page. Let's move on to the next one. So after I did the Supertopian, I was approached by Ben Goldsmith. He said he had a perfect project for me. He was thinking it would look great, cartoony, and he introduced me to Second Place. Now, Second Place, for those of you that didn't buy it, shame on you, Second Place was about a guy that runs a gym that trains bodybuilders. They're aliens in like a galactic competition called the Humies. Now, the Humies are meant to more or less copy what humans on Earth do for bodybuilding competitions, and they want to see who can, pose down and who's sculpted the most. And this one guy, Ferrig, he always used to win first place. Now, his buddy, Arnie, used to win second place, and Ferrig, was presented with the idea of becoming an action movie star. That didn't happen. Ferrig was like, nah, I'm going to stick with this. Arnie became the movie star. He got big and famous. Ferrig got jealous. And so the whole book is about how the two friends meet up and they realize through a system of like sitcom-esque errors that they each wanted to be in the other's shoes. And they come to grips with it and they realize kind of cool with the way things are. And then they go back to being friends. It turns out really nice. It's a 4-issue book, and Ben did a really great job writing it, and I really was not up to snuff. It was my first book, but I did learn a ton from it. Yeah, I learned a lot. And actually, when I finished issue 1, I had to get my heart valve replaced. So issue 1, kind of sloppy. 2, 3, and 4 just got better and better and better as it moved along, and that's really what I wanted. I wanted issue 1 to start out and show that things weren't that good, and then, just get better as the story progresses and things just come more into focus and look good. But if you take a look at this was a proposed cover for the graphic novel that was going to be sold on Amazon, and a lot of dead space. The composition here, just not that good. I did try, because at the end of the book, I moved from traditional methods on Bristol board to digital on my Surface Pro. So I have the original pages from issues 1 and 3, but I have not printed the inks for or maybe I did. I don't think I did. I did not print the inks from issue 4 because they were all digital. I didn't have the actual pages. I'm planning to print the digital inks onto stock and put it into one of the presentation folders that I have. But you see that I'm trying. You see that I'm progressing. Next page. Okay, this is one of the traditional pages from issue 1 of Second Place. You see again that I have the energy, I have the heart. I just don't understand how to lay out a panel and tell a story right. There's a lot of misused space, overlapping panel borders, the camera angles and the way that the backgrounds are set up. They're just a little sloppy, and I give myself that grace. I recognize that while they are sloppy and they could have been done better, I needed to be here in order to learn to be where I am today. And that actually is a lesson that you'll learn about in a little bit. Again, here's another page. I think this might be... no, that's not issue 4. I think that's issue 3. It's another traditional page, but then again, I could have done things a lot differently. What I didn't know then and I know now, it would look a lot better. Again, have to go from here to get to here. So let's see what we got next. Oh, after I finished Second Place, I was approached by an artist I met in Colorado Springs by the name of Mark May. He was starting up his own trading card game, Hellbringers. That's what it's called, Hellbringers. And Hellbringers was a collectible card game that was turn-based, and the premise was devil's out of hell. There's chaos going on, so your goal is to get a team with your cards, overrun hell, start ruling it. So I was approached, hey, can you do these cards? And I was like, you know what? That'd be a great break. Because after I finished second place, I had a really deep thought, which was, I've only been doing cartoons up to this point. So all really people know me as is the cartoony guy. I want to gain skill. I want to learn to become more dramatic as an artist so that my skills can stretch the gamut. I can draw cartoony, I can draw traditional comic book, or I can draw horror. And I wanted that to be seen. So here we have one of the pieces of art that I did for the Hellbringers book, and this is for I can't remember the character's name, but he's basically like rhinoceros. It's a cross between a T-Rex and a rhino. It is pretty badass. Like, the original inks for this are just gorgeous, and I was really happy because I did a little bit of a Dutch angle, forced the perspective, and those flames aren't on point as far as the inks go, but I'm really happy with the result. And then we move to the next card, which was red. This guy here uses a blade on a chain, and he's like an ogre. And I just wanted to do so much violently with this card. I wanted to show that this guy was really vicious, and there was a lot of violence involved. So I figured that one of the best ways to do it was to have the character throw the blade at the viewer. If you look up in the trees behind him, he's got somebody hung. They're choked out by one of his chains. Not too many people caught that. At least it's never been presented to me. But Mark knows that I did it, and I thought he was pretty happy with it. So this is next. But what I need to tell you guys is that after I did the Hellbringers, the Hellbringers cards, Mark presented me with the idea to do a comic book for him because he created an intense storyline which just really encapsulated all three card sets and just told the whole story of how these three cards work together, and just linear through a bunch of different issues, told from beginning to end, how it summed up and ended actually. And the one that I did was cartoony, and it was Hellpug and Velocicock. It was about a half velociraptor, half rooster, and he teamed up with Hellpug, which was actually Lilith's dog, and they had to go find Satan. Like, they had to go bring him back. But the issue was basically they get together, they meet up, they do the whole buddy cop thing where they hate each other, and then they realize, hey, there's a price on your head. And so I did that issue. I think I did it digitally, and it was more of a foray of learning my way, cutting my teeth around making comic pages digital and just outputting them. From there, my art was recognized by a gentleman named Alex Cayazzo, who he runs Mavericks, and you gotta forgive me, like, I'm tired and I'm telling the story. Mavericks Rogues. And Alex is a fantastic guy. He first asked me to create a logo for their YouTube page, which I did, and he loved it. And he asked me if I was interested in hearing him out about an idea that he had. And the idea that he had was Menalix. It is a trilogy. Currently we're working on the third, but he wanted me to work on the second graphic novel because someone had already worked on the first. Now, the concept behind Warrior Sword Pilgrim Menalix is that he's royalty, and has been framed and deposed from his throne, and he's more or less a prince. And part of his culture is to travel around and become battle hardened and go on more or less a personal quest. And his plan was to come back and gain his throne back. And you know, the greatest thing about this is that Warrior Sword Pilgrim and Alex is sci-fi, fantasy, and martial arts, steeped heavily in samurai lore. And there's a lot of technology involved, and it takes place in like a futuristic environment with a really strong foot in the past. And it's swords and sorcery and technology. And the best part is, this book is being translated from English to Spanish, and it's distributed online. And I've been told it's been picked up and read in parts of South America, definitely Puerto Rico, and parts of America. And it has a huge following. Actually, Alex has sent me pictures of little kids cosplaying Manalix at conventions in other parts of the world. And that makes me really proud. But here I've learned how to use figure poses and reference for actual martial arts stances and poses. And you'll see here that this is a poster that is promoting the first book, The Warrior Sword Pilgrim and Alex. And this guy in the background, that's Daniel Pesina. I don't know if you guys know who Daniel Pesina is, but if you saw the original 90s Mortal Kombat movie, Daniel Pesina was Johnny Cage. Or did he play? He played Scorpion in that movie, I think. But originally, in the video game, he was Johnny Cage. So Alex met him, talked to him, said, hey man, can we use you in a book? And Daniel Pesina, Master Pesina, was very appreciative and allowed us to use what was available online and use him for figure reference. And we did, and he's a part of the story. And his character is incredibly badass. There's a fight scene that I got to do in the Manalix storyline where he punches a hole through somebody. I mean, Alex told me the whole layout and the script, and I was like, you want me to have Daniel Pesina punch this guy? He's like, well, you might. It gets a little worse than that. You're going to see how it turns out. And it turned out very well. I'm not giving anything away because if you guys want it, you're either going to have to buy it from me or buy it online. And I think it is not in print anymore. You have to buy it as an e-publication. So you'd find that on Amazon. And just hit me up on my social media. I'll let you know what the link is. So let's move on to the next one. And here we go. It's another Warrior Sword Pilgrim and Alex poster. And this is to lead into a second part of the story. And actually, it's like a real big high point. Now, Alex presented me with a culture. He told me what the warrior culture was and explained to me a lot of the way things work. And we hashed things out. And he explained to me about their weapons, and I designed them to the best of my ability. But here you see, I'm doing a little bit better. I mean, I didn't do better with the copy work in the background. There could have been, some drop shadows, and the lettering on the side could have been a lot easier to read against the backdrop of the moon. But I'm doing better. I'm doing better. And you know what? That might lead me to my next one, which I'll tell you about in just a moment. Because if memory serves, this next thing is something you might want to see. Yep. Here's a page from Warrior Sword Pilgrim and Alex. I pulled out the text. It's just the colors. So, you see what I had going on, which was I learned how to move the camera around. I understood lighting a little bit more, not as much as I do now, but a little bit more. I understood dynamic camera angles. I used more reference. I tried to get a little bit more intense. I wanted things to be seen to show that this village, for the page that I drew about, this village was massacred. Like, massacred. Everybody got killed. There are some perspective issues and scale and just things that I could have done a lot better. But again, we had to get from here to to get to where we are now. So I got my grace. So, this thing here caught the eye of the woman that I'm working with now. Incredibly patient, talented, and wonderful writer. And I've learned so much from her. So much. Let's see. Let's see what's on the next one. Boop. No, I don't want to save that. Oh, okay. So here's a cover I did for me. It's a project that I'm working on with my wife. She's going to be coloring for me. It's called Skies Over Gutenberg. Now, I know you've heard me talk about it, but this is going to be like my baby. This is going to be... And my intent is to grow this world while I'm learning other techniques and other storytelling methods on the other books that I'm working on the King Manalics, on the Danger Team, on the Impossible City. Skies is going to be about a kid who grew up and had dreams of being a superhero and really kind of like he just felt like he couldn't do it. Like, I want to be this and I know I got it in me, but I just don't think I can go over there and do it. It's for people that feel like they have greatness in them, but they just don't feel like they can try. They feel like they're just not good enough. Or maybe they're going to fail, and they're afraid to fail. And I hope that this book inspires people to realize that if you've got a dream, the only way it's going to happen is if you put in the sweat equity and you make it happen. So that's my cover to Skies Over Gutenberg, and I see, well, it's my first idea, my first pass at that cover. I plan on redoing this cover based on things that I know now, and doing a lot better with this. Doing a lot better. I did a prologue to this book, which I already have the first and second and third issues scripted out. But I did a prologue to this story, and friends who know me loved it. They felt like it was very strongly emotional, and people that have seen it, and I gave it to my wife, and she colored it, and there are a couple of people that told me they cried when they read it, and that's what I'm going for. I want this to be like heavy hitting emotionally, and then it just gets better. It just, like, you get the premise, there's a lot of emotion, and then it's just fun and games, and then it'll peak, and Christianity, it's going to be like a movie, more or less. But I showed it to the editor and writer that I'm working with, and she was critical, and rightly so. She took a look at it, and she's like, I see what you're trying to do, but you could have stretched this out, and you could have timed it a lot better, and you could have made it more pages. And if you need help breaking the text up and the copy and editing it, let me know, because I want to see you succeed. And that meant a lot to me, because this has been a project that I've been working on since I was about 16. That's a long time. I've been building these stories like in my head for like a long time. And, gee, I wonder who Iggy's based on. Let's move on to the next one. Okay. This. If you guys follow me on social media, you'll see that just about every Friday, there's one specific online strip that I read and appreciate. Because my editor writes it, and I've been a fan for the longest time. I think it's incredibly well done. It's got such a... it's so good. You take one panel, one page at a time, and you tell a really great story, and there are subtle nuances to it that you don't really catch right away. You have to go back and you have to read. Or maybe you'll be 5 pages or 8 pages down the road, and you'll think, oh, I remember from this page here that this is what they were referring to. That's really sneaky that this was in the background, or that this person was making a facial expression. Well, I was approached by the writer, editor, for that strip, and I was asked, hey, do you draw comics? Yes. Do you have any examples? I was excited. Sure, yeah, hey, here's some examples. And I did my best to show some of my dramatic work, some of my comedy work, just a whole bunch of stuff. Hey, how do you feel about this script? And I read it, and I was like, yeah, that script was great. Okay. Set things in motion. Danger Team. Danger Team is a spin-off of that strip, Giant Girl Adventures. Now, anybody who's going to watch this video is going to know. Well, this seems kind of boring, right? This is early on. No, actually, I think some of the other pages, I put like 1 or 2 pages in here, but this is further ahead. 2 guys talking in a diner. The guy with the glasses is interviewing the guy in the Paisley shirt, who used to be a member of the team. If you follow Giant Girl, you'll know 64-Bit. And 64-Bit is telling him just about everything he can, not everything, he's telling him everything he can about the Danger Team that he was on. You know, and this guy, he's a reporter. He's hired to do this story. He was like, whatever. But he's finding things out. Next page, here's one of the earlier pages, okay? You can see I'm trying, and I'm getting better. I'm not quite there. Every page is better than the last. This is my goal. Every page better than the last. So here we have him talking to his boss, and his boss is like, yep, hey, you're going to be writing based on these guys here. And he's like, this is what's going on. And of course, shocking ending to the page, so reaction panel at the end. Now, in that time, I've also had the opportunity to do a couple of strips for Rich of this old character, Supertopian. And he was in the back of Gods of Brutality. Shout out to Rich Woodall. I do not have enough love in my heart for that man. He really is one of the strong reasons as to why I'm drawing comics, because backstory, years ago there was a comic book shop called Paperback Bazaar. You might know it today as Jetpack Press, Jetpack Comics. So when I used to hang out at Double Midnight in Manchester, one day one of the guys, Scott, said, hey, I'm going to meet Ed McGuinness up at Paperback Bazaar. You want to tag along? Oh my God, yeah. Ed McGuinness, he just started doing that limited series of the Thundercats. I love his work. Yeah, let's go check it out. So I brought my issue of Thundercats #1 up to Paperback Bazaar with me, and I got Ed McGuinness to sign it, and it was a long time ago. Long time ago. And I asked him some questions about how he sets up his workflow, because I was having problems. Still kind of do. But he gave me some good insights. Now, I met Rich Woodall and Matt Talbot at Paperback Bazaar. They had this little card table, and they were selling ashcan copies of Johnny Ray Gun. I actually have 1 or 2. I think I have one with some water damage, but I have one without water damage, and it's part of my really prized possessions. And I had Matt and Rich sign them. And I met Rich and saw him at conventions, and one day he approached me, would you be interested in doing the Supertopian? The long story short of meeting Rich is that Rich has always encouraged me to draw. He's always told me, this is what you need to be doing. And Rich has cryptically given me insights that I just didn't fathom. I don't know if I have a processing issue or whatever, but Rich would tell me things, and I wouldn't understand until a couple years later. Anyway, he was a part of Black Caravan. Him and Joe Schmalke, who Joe is another great guy, and he asked me if I would love to do some strips for the back of Gods of Brutality. And how do you say no? How do you say no to Rich? Where is this? Which this? Issue 1? Okay, so I think it picks up in issue 2. But it's not in the back there, otherwise I'd show you. So anyway, this is the second in a series of 3 strips that I did for that. And you'll see that I'm understanding cartooning a little bit more. Not so much the shading, because back then I was afraid of my shadows and the black spots. And I was just afraid to pull a lot of stuff off. Now, not so much. It's not a question of being cocky. It's just a question of really not just understanding that you can make a mistake and learn from it or fix it, or you can just not do it and then nothing happens. Either something happens or nothing happens. You know, you either try and fail and learn from the failure, or you don't do and you just gripe about how you didn't do it. I choose to try and fail now instead of griping about how I didn't do it. Here we go. Starting to see improvement, right? Starting to see how I can take time to put in the effort in the backgrounds and add some shadows and not be afraid of things and change around dynamic angles and still use comedic principles from cartooning and do dramatic work with a cartooning slant. It's getting better, right? And here we see Giant Girl. She used to be a member of Danger Team. And then he's telling the story, like, hey man, we used to do stuff, we partied, and then we would go and, you know, we'd save the world, and then we would party because, you know, we're bored. He's like, you know, you save the world and people think you're the best. You party and then do some dumb stuff. It's on you. Like, it's on you. And then so the reporter is like, so what have you guys done? I've never heard of you. You know, what did you... And he's like, well, I only saved the world from, like, an international crime conglomerate. And it's just... When this comes out, I'm not ruining it. You guys buy this damn book when I put it out. Now here, another improvement. Series of ads for the next book I'm working on called Impossible City. I did not show you the entire ad, but I wanted to show you something that I was pretty proud of. It was a little... I still laugh every time I see it. It kills me. It's an action figure ad, but I just love it. Let's go to the next one. This is a story I'm going to have in Impossible City. That is Chastity Jones. She is an old 1800s cowgirl that got brought into the cyberpunk future and became a bounty hunter. Yeah. She doesn't know much about what's going on, but she's got a great head on her shoulders, and she doesn't need to know about the technology. She knows about people. I love it. I'm learning so much. So move on to the next and the last one. This last one I'm really proud of. That's the print that me and my son worked on. He gave me two characters, Skeletor and Papyrus from Undertale. And he wanted them to be ready to square off. And so, I did everything I could to make it as tense and as dramatic as possible. And I wanted to add in some colors and just effects and just make it really dramatic. So, this is what I've been doing. In the past, I did cartoony stuff. I wanted to learn and branch out, and I'm learning. And I'm actually going to be working on King Manalix, which is the third in the series. I'm working on Danger Team, which is going to be a spin-off of Giant Girl, so all of those once-a-week posts, I'll be making my own. And working on Impossible City, which is just going to be a superhero humor comic, which I'm really glad to be a part of. I'm doing what I love, I'm learning, and I'm loving it even more. How could things get better? Like, this is just it. This is just the best. This is what people should do. They should do what they love. I love what they do. But, yeah. That's what I've been doing.